Hi guys, my name is Shane Perkis, and I'm a single subject credential candidate for social studies at Azusa Pacific University. And this is my MARP assignment, and it's focused on interactive presentation tools. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about the different types of interactive presentation tools, how they can be used in the classroom, and how they're really an exciting trend that is happening in education tech right now. Just starting with some opening thoughts on what makes interactive presentations so great. There are a lot. There are a lot of things that really go towards this. Starting with engagement, there's a higher level of audience engagement for your students because they can choose what to do. There can be continual question and answer segments, anonymous feedback from your students that they can give to you. You can quickly check for understanding throughout your presentation. And there are different kind of activities that you can do with your student, like word cloud, a word web, and many other type of group activities for your class to do together. And as studies show, going to our second point, is that there can be greater retention rates based on our level of engagement. They show specifically that a higher level of engagement during learning processes results in greater retention rate. So that's what we're really looking for right now in our interactive presentations. Number 3 for me is enhanced learning environment. The learning environment is enhanced because students are able to engage the content in their own way and at their own pace. Different presentation tools allow for kind of a mapped out presentation for students to go through, or it can be a group presentation where the teacher is presenting to the class and they're all interacting on one thing. Images and links can be provided through these presentations, which allow for students to interact with those links and images in their own way and for whatever is most appealing for them, which helps them have more engagement with the lesson and have a greater retention rate. There is quick time assessment and feedback. Number 4. The assessment and feedback is critical for the interactive presentations because it allows for you to quickly assess students for where they're at in the lesson, to start a lesson and at the end of the lesson. So doing diagnostic, formative, and summative assessments. And that the once they are done with their assessments, the numbers are returned to the teacher at their base with their screen, and they can assess where the class is at by percentages that can be categorized in a different way. And lastly is that the interactive presentation tools links with Google and other classroom management software. Many apps that there are link with Google Suite, Schoology, Canvas, and many other portals for classrooms and tools that are used in classrooms to allow for efficient classroom application. And another key part to interactive presentation tools is that it really doesn't matter whether you're an Apple person or whether you're a Windows person. So whether you like computers or you like a Mac, you will be able to use the interactive presentation tools. And as a teacher, you always don't have the choice of what you're going to use. Depending on where you're teaching at and the districts, they may have a deal on what they're using. They may be using all computers or all Macs, and you kind of have to go with what the district or the school wants you to do. So you won't be left out in the dark without the interactive presentation tools. You'll be able to use your interactive presentation tools whether you're on a Mac or you're on a computer. And these presentation tools, they're all different kinds. There's Mentimeter, Lesson Up, Pear Deck is the bottom right there, and there's Nearpod. The Mentimeter and Nearpod can both be used with Windows. Lesson Up and Pear Deck can be used with Mac, and Mac can also use Nearpod. There are quite a few more Mac applications that I've been able to research as I am on a Mac, but I would look further into Windows because there are several. These presentation tools allow for different assessments, different types of the assessments, diagnostics, formative, and summative assessments, which can help during your presentation to know where your students are at, where they're coming from, and what level they're leaving the class with. And we're going to just check out some examples now of some of those types of assessments that you will see in your presentation tool. This is an example of a diagnostic assessment, something that would be a bell work for your students to do, something when they come in, they would be telling you what they learned from their homework. So what they're coming into the class with the knowledge of the last section that you went over. So that way you know if they're ready to move on or if they need some further understanding that you may need to review with them. Here is an example of the formative assessment. This is one where it was written, but there are all different kinds of formative assessments that you can have them do. There are quizzes, there are drawn assessments, there are recorded assessments that you can use based on what presentation tool you're using. But we can use these formative assessments to allow for the different kinds of learning styles. You can differentiate based on who your learners are in your class. And then finally, there's the summative assessment that you will have at the end of your lesson, where it could be like this, where it's a written portion, where you're having them write for a minute or 2 minutes for the most important thing from today's lesson to them. Or it could be recorded. It could be something you have them draw or explain in another way. And it's just to kind of check where they're at the end of the day. And as the teacher, again, you'll get all of these assessments from Pear Deck. You'll get all these written responses or drawn responses, whatever it may be, so that you can see what all of your students got from it, so you know what was got from your students and what they did not get. These assessment results are key because they're quick, they're easy to interpret, and they're categorized easily for teachers to use for their next lessons. This is a little pie graph, which is actually similar to what you're going to get from the applications. Here is an example of what you'd get from Nearpod. It shows in here the little pie graph here showing the quiz answers. There's correct answers, wrong answers, and no answers. So it gives you a breakdown based off of who was right and wrong, as well as those that didn't participate. And then there's a general student participation graph on the left here, where it shows those who did participate and those who didn't participate in answering questions. And then we have an example on the bottom here, Josh, who's down there, has a red frown face. So it shows where he's at for the day. His quizzes, it shows that he is 25% for the day. His draw it, he had 0%, and his participation, he had 60%. So this is a tool that you can use as a teacher to really help you with your participation grade day to day, and to see what the student is understanding or what they're best at even. My closing thoughts on interactive presentation tools are that there are many different applications and that you can use them based on what you like. There are many different applications out there so that you can see what type you like best, what application works best for you, and most of them have a free application as well as a paid for. So if you go in and into the free application and you try it out and you work it around, you can see what works best for you and then what you can buy to work best for your classroom. Another major thing for me is that this really allows for a more positive learning environment. The interactive presentation tools gives you different chances to differentiate your presentation to different students. It allows them to draw their responses, write their responses, even record their responses. It gives more different kinds of checks for understanding where they can drag and do thumbs up. They can click and drag things over to show what level of understanding they have based on a smiley face or a frown face. And it makes it so that it's not always something that they can be seen by the rest of their class. They can be anonymous, which may help some students that are a little shyer. And that it's usable regardless of the platform that you're coming at it with. Whether you use a Mac or a computer that runs Windows, you can use an interactive presentation tool, and it can be an effective thing in your classroom. And that it really just, the major thing for me is that it gives a higher engagement to your classroom, which ultimately, with the trend going as it is, will lead to higher retention. So if we as teachers use these interactive presentation tools in our classrooms, it will lead to us having higher engagement by our students and a higher retention rate for our students. And here are my references. Thank you.